From the courtroom to the boardroom, Linda Swindling, JD, CSP, knows firsthand about high stakes communication. Her specialty is showing people how to show up powerfully so others will listen. She's called one of the country's top experts on communications by the Network for Executive Women and an expert on bargaining by American Way magazine. She first addressed workplace communication issues as a successful attorney and mediator, which led her to working as a consultant and an executive coach. Now, a certified speaking professional and a recovering attorney, she is the past president of the National Speakers Association North Texas and currently president of her own woman-owned business, Journey On, which provides strategic consulting, executive coaching, and keynote speaking. She's the author of Stop Complainers and Energy Drainers, How to Negotiate Work Drama to Get More Done, and the popular Passports to Success, which includes 13 titles on workplace communication. Her most recent book, The Manager's High Performance Handbook, addresses how to lead like a champion. Welcome, Linda.
Well, thank you. Welcome, Gail. It's nice to be here, Dr. Carlson.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We've known each other for years and years and years. But of course, I have a question that I'm sure all of our listeners are thinking about. You know, you went to school for a very, very, very long time to become an attorney. And you were actively employed as an attorney and as a mediator. Why did you leave your law practice to do what you're doing?
Well, that is a question I get asked a lot. It was hard because I finally got my name on the door and I was a partner, and it really became about ego. You know, why did I want to do it? Well, it wasn't making me happy. It wasn't using my skill set to the best that they could be. And quite frankly, you know, sometimes you get what you need out of a job and then it's time to move on. And that's what it was. It was very frustrating for me to be in a job where I would see the problems after the fact and I couldn't solve them, Gail, because if I could get in front of them, if I could somehow talk to people, I thought, you know, they wouldn't be in my office.
Well, and you know, it's interesting. I see, and I'm sure you do too, so many people who study a particular career for whatever reason. And then when they get into that career, it is not at all what they thought it was, and they go on and do something totally different. So what would you say to women who are thinking about making a dramatic life or career change?
Well, the very first thing is, I hired a business coach, and she worked with me for a year before I decided to leave, and then it took me 3 or 4 years to transition. So it doesn't mean you wake up with that idea and immediately tomorrow you have to act on it, but you can start taking actions towards it. So I'd get some outside perspective, and I would really ask myself, you know, am I running away from something or am I running to something? And that will help you a ton.
Well, that's true. I guess that's true. Unfortunately, with me, I make up my mind I want to do something, and I just go and do it, you know. So I don't take any intelligent time to think about things. I usually just go right into them, and sometimes I'm happy, and sometimes I'm sorry. But so you're looking at people who come to you with problems, and you're looking at women who want to make a career change, and you spent 3 or 4 years making this change yourself. What are the questions people should ask themselves before making a big change?
Sure, and it can be just like that. It can be what you were saying, Gail. It can be, you know, what do I want to do? Can I morph my career? Can I flex my career right now to do more of that? So I did become a mediator, and I did, you know, start speaking more often. So that's the first question is what I want to do something I could flex or morph my current position or my current role into? A lot of times we can. We're so fed up with what we're doing, we forget that we have some flexibility if we ask for it. The big question for you might be, you know, what's the next best step? I know that what I'm doing right now is not serving me or is not what I want to do anymore. What's the next best step? Should I write down what I've learned from this career? Should I talk to people who maybe are in that position? What is my next best step to find out more about what I want to do?
Interesting. So you talk about high performance in the workplace. What traits are employers looking for when they're trying to hire high performers? And I would think that in today's world, especially in the world of the millennials, that's changing a bit because millennials don't stay in one place. And if they're doing well, but they don't see opportunity to do even more, or if they don't even believe in the cause of the company, they're out of there.
Well, that's right. They are. And, I think people 50 and above, maybe even 40 and above, are far more likely to grit and bear it and take some of the stuff for a longer period of time, where a millennial might jump easier or just, we've trained them to do that. But what is surprising, and we did a survey of over 600 people on this scale on what are you looking for in a high performer, what was surprising was it is not longevity and it is not references. And I whether that's an expectation that you'll have those references, or you wouldn't have put them on there, or that your resume will look great, or that you've stayed in the job a long time. The staying in the job a long time is not nearly as impressive as someone who has stayed in the field or stayed in an organization and grew. And instead of having 10 years of experience, a lot of people will put down that they've had 10 years, and it's really 1 year of experience, and they've just repeated it for 10 years. So the big things on that are, look at your four big ones, which is one, believe it or not, the very highest thing that people are looking for is possessing a positive attitude and getting along well with others. Do you play nice in the sandbox? And the second one, are you a self-starter? So do you sit around and wait for problems to happen, or, wait for permission, or are you actually out there self-starting and getting into action, and that's followed quickly by, do you know how to solve the problems once you see them? And probably that fourth one that was so interesting is, do you have a proven ability to communicate well? So when you're interviewing or looking, who knew that problem solving makes sense, but stressing that you have a good ability, the ability to communicate and get out there, and you will self-start, and you're positive, really plays into your job hunt.
Well, that's interesting because, in fact, I just made a video yesterday on mindset. I said mindset matters, because it does. I mean, that's really the start of everything. However, interestingly, I wonder, now this is where I think millennials have an advantage and over the 40s and 50s, and that's if they want to do something, they're going to do it. And a lot of people are afraid to be self-starters because they feel they'll be criticized by the people who are over them, or that they're trying to take charge of something they shouldn't. On the other hand, by the time you hit 40, usually many people are married or starting a family, and that steady, constant paycheck and the benefits and everything seem to be very, very hospitable to them, and they don't really want to make a change. But I think that it's really important to be a self-starter. So what do you do if someone isn't that positive mindset, that if they are a negative person, how do you work with them?
It's difficult when people are negative and that's what they've chosen to be. If you can remember, most people act negatively under stress. A lot of times it's just a temporary condition. The problem that so many of the books and the studies have been about are, dealing with difficult people. Well, I don't want to deal with them anymore. I want them to stop. I want them to go away from me and stop bothering me. So the issue then becomes not one size fits all, Gail. And this was another study we did over 1,000 people. And the type of person that bugs me may not bother you. So the one that really drains my energy may not be your problem. So you've really got to identify which of those 4 or 5, and the 5th type is the one that's just purely toxic. So if they're whining, or if they're complicating things, or if they're the bullies, the controllers, or if they're prima donnas. And some of those I wouldn't have put in negative people, but when we did this very open-ended question, we said describe your person that's draining your energy, and all of a sudden there were 5 people, 5 different types.
So, what do you do if you are the negative person? I mean, uh, sir, I mean, I have to tell you, I have gotten to the point where socially, I prefer not to go out with certain people that I did go out with because they don't ever have anything good to say. I do go
Exactly.
out with them every few months because I mean they're friends and I don't want to just push them out of my life because they're good people, but they are definitely negative people. What do you do about that?
Well, if it's you personally, there is something that's stressing you out usually. And we all can be negative. We can all be negative when we get under stress. But what you really want to say is, what need am I trying to fulfill? If I'm being very managing of people or details or nitpicky, I probably feel out of control. Or if I'm whining, I probably want to have a relationship with someone. Or, if I'm larger than life, prima donna, you know what? I probably need some attention. And you've got to fill that need positively so that that counterbalances and you say, well, I've got what I need. I don't need to act out to get it. Gail, for your listeners, there's two assessments they can take that might help that they can do for free. And if they want to go to stopcomplainers.com, down at the bottom, there's two assessments. One is, spot your complainer's type, which of those five are you seeing? And then it'll give you some words and negotiation techniques and also, why they're doing it. And then on the right-hand side at the bottom, it says, am I seen as a complainer? And that's a different assessment. It's also free. Just put your name in as the code word. Just put Gayle, Gayle, as the code word, and they can take that.
Wow, that's interesting. It's funny, I did a program on how to deal with difficult people for an organization that I won't name. However, I did feel like they were the negative people, and I thought, oh boy, because they were all scientists and PhDs, and I thought, well, they don't relate to me because when I talk, I mean, I give them good information, I'm serious, but I do have a little bit of a sense of humor, and it didn't seem like anybody in the room had a sense of humor, and so I thought, well, I got to get through the day, and believe it or not, they brought me back 3 times. And I thought
It's crazy.
that is really interesting because
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I'm viewing them as difficult people and I'm working with them and teaching them how to deal with them, and they brought me back 3 times. So you never know. You never know where what the person is really what's going on. And you're absolutely right. There's probably some kind of uh, something going on in their lives that you need to look at. Now, I know you also feel that a lot of negativity and negative people are actually suffering from burnout. That's kind of what you just said, that there's some kind of stressors in their life. So, what do you think people can do to prevent burnout?
Well, one is spot it. That's the big one for a lot of us. We soldier on and we don't need to. One is, are you exercising? Are you doing anything that's fun? Do you have any friends outside of work friends? You need to get away from those people. Um, we, as a society, we have this whole self-sufficiency. I am going to solve it all. And usually when you get to the level that a lot of people experience severe burnout, it's because they haven't delegated. And you really need to learn how to delegate so that you don't keep bringing it back on your shoulders to do.
That's true.
And then,
That's true.
you know, you need to toss that ball and let them hold it. And they may, yeah, they may have some stress, but how else are they ever going to learn to grow and deal with this job that you're preparing them for if you keep saving them?
Well, that's true. I mean, it's interesting that you talk about delegation because I always say delegation is not doing it like I do. Delegation is doing it as long as it gets done. In other words, doing it well enough. And
Hmm.
always use the example of my kids when they were little and they had to make their beds. No, they didn't make them well, but it was their bed. They had to sleep in it. So if it was fine with them, it was fine with me. And then feeding the dogs. I used to portion out the dog food and make so much wet food and so much dry food and just mix it all up so beautifully. And when I had the kids do it, they just dumped everything. And guess what? The dogs ate it anyway. I was always amazed, and I thought, well, here you've been so careful about what you're giving, and the dogs don't care. They just slop it up. So it's